Welcome to this edition of Labor Vision. Hi, I'm Bob Delaney, Executive Director of the Institute for Labor Studies and Research. Labor Vision, a production of the Institute, focuses on topics of importance to working Rhode Island families. This evening's edition will host Legislative Issues with Jim Parisi, where we bring the legislature into your living room. We hope you enjoy this edition of Legislative Issues and Labor Vision.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Labor Vision, where we bring the General Assembly right into your living room. My name is James Parisi. I'm a field representative with the Rhode Island Federation of Teachers and Health Professionals, and I'm your host this evening. Tonight, we're going to continue our conversation with elected officials talking about different pieces of legislation. And tonight, we're going to focus on some labor relations issues with Senator Frank Lombardi. Frank, thank you for joining us.
Jim, it's my pleasure to be here.
So the first bit of confusion is we have a Lombardi and a Lombardo in Senate District 25 and 26.
Exactly.
I'm a Johnston guy, so I know Lombardo is 25. You represent the Senate District 26.
That's correct.
And that is all located within the city of Cranston?
I like to say it is in the city of Cranston, but it's probably the most eclectic district you have. We go from the Providence line, the Webster Avenue, Cranston Street area, through Knightsville, and all the way up to the Scituate line. So like I say, it's very eclectic. We have some of the poorest neighborhoods and some of the more affluent neighborhoods in my district, yes.
So I know through work that being a state senator wasn't your first elected office. Why don't we start by going back a little bit?
Absolutely.
You're a PC guy who's now an attorney.
I am. Graduated in '84, went on to Northeastern University School of Law, and graduated there in '88. And I had the good pleasure of coming out of law school and working with former Governor Roberts with a large firm where I learned how to litigate cases. Yeah. And I spent about 4 years there, and then from then on in, since '91, I've had my own practice, and we've built it up to where it is today.
And as a AFT guy, I'd be remiss in not noting that you're a graduate of Classical High School. Huh?
I am, very proudly, and I understand I'm going to be inducted into the Athletic Hall of Fame for my work as a soccer referee in the Rhode Island High School Interscholastic League.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I know you were on the Cranston School Committee. Was that your first run at political office?
My first run, but as you know from my history, my brother John, we've been involved in politics for a long, long time. John faithfully served the city of Providence, Federal Hill area as a councilman for 28 years, was the acting mayor. I was kind of his makeshift campaign manager all those years. So I learned, I was thrown into the fire very young, but I spent 6 years on the school committee. You and I spent many a late evening together.
We did.
Negotiating contracts, yes.
And got things done.
And got things done, absolutely, for the good of the children, yes.
So what made you decide to run for office? You've been in the state Senate, this is your 4th year now.
It is. Politics has always been in my blood, like I said, but I really, and I know that this sounds like a line, but I really want to make a difference. I thoroughly enjoy being an elected official. I did on the school committee, and as you know, that was a labor of love many times because you're not always pleasing everyone. But I truly enjoyed doing good for people, trying to be accessible to people. And now at the Senate level, I love it. I love going there every day. I have a perfect attendance. I haven't missed a committee meeting, haven't missed a session in 4 years. I'm happy to be up there. Everyone has my cell phone. I try and answer my constituency as best I can. And I really, really enjoy making a difference and making laws.
You also put in a good number of bills, and I know you have some expertise in the field of employment law and on the labor side of the legal business. Why don't we spend a few minutes and talk about a couple of different initiatives you put in?
Sure.
You know, we had Senator Gail Golden in the studio a couple of years ago talking about this new program, TCI, Temporary Caregiver Insurance, where here in Rhode Island, we've expanded the TDI program to include, caring for, sick family members.
Right.
You've put in some legislation related to that.
I have. I'm expanding upon the concept. I'm adding siblings to the current statute that's in place. And it's funny, Jim, when Gail gave me the good fortune of co-sponsoring it with her, we came under some criticism that we were somehow, it was another social program and, giveaways, that sort of thing. Until you heard the stories about people who truly needed caregivers, family members to be in their homes while they were either debilitated with a terminal illness, debilitating sickness, or pregnancy, bad pregnancies, that sort of thing. And many times there's only one or two people in their lives that can actually give them the care that they need at home and the love that they need. And these people have had to sacrifice their jobs and lay their jobs on the line for it. So that criticism is long since dissipated, I think, and I think it's a proud moment for Rhode Island that we expanded this program. And now I have come across in my practice so many people dealing with illnesses, and typically it's the single brother or the single sister. Mom and dad are deceased. There are no children to speak of. They're long-term bachelors, never married, and the only people in their lives are siblings. And I thought that was an unfortunate omission in the legislation, because just last night I was speaking with one of my colleagues who has to get on a plane today and go out to take care of her sick brother who has no one there for him. He's currently in a nursing home. Mm-hmm. And I said, wow, how apropos that we would be meeting today to discuss that, because I think it's critical that someone have someone in their life to give them the care, comfort, and relief that they need in their weakest moments. And
I think you're right that this TCI program's really been received well by Rhode Islanders.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think back. My wife, during her pregnancy, she had twins, and it was a very difficult pregnancy. And we had the good fortune of having a good family nucleus to help. But I wonder, the single moms out there that have maybe an older sister, an older brother, or maybe just a mom or someone that can be there to care. And I think that it's really, really worked to not only provide comfort and support for the patient, so to speak, but also for the caregiver to know that financially this is not going to strap them to such an extent that, you're adding devastation upon devastation.
And the thought just came to my mind, and there's some people of my age who have siblings who are developmentally disabled. And
absolutely.
If parents aren't around, it's absolutely the sibling who looks out for them.
Unquestionably, absolutely. And we're dealing not only with mental illnesses, we're dealing with developmental disabilities. And now we're seeing more and more people with early stages dementia at such young ages and that sort of thing. And I've seen what a horrible drain it is on the family to begin with. And to add a financial burden to that family in a time of need, I think just exacerbates an already difficult situation.
Sure. One other piece of legislation I know you've introduced is related to a private right of action. You're a lawyer, so I'll let you explain to our viewers what private right of action is and why it's important and why you introduced it.
Well, 2016 has been a very interesting year for me on the Labor Committee where I sit. I'm learning about some rather egregious practices that are going on out there. And I'd like to think it's the exception and not the rule. But we're seeing things that employers are doing to, let's say, the less sophisticated employees or the people without necessary resources to be able to combat it. And many times they look to their they don't, for fear of retribution, they don't want to make waves with their employer. And sometimes the only place that they can look is with a state agency, Department of Labor and Training, Workers' Compensation Court, those kinds of things. Now we're going to not eliminate, but we're going to supplement what is in existence via the state agency by allowing these employees to have private rights of action so that they can hire their own lawyers and seek the appropriate redress in the courts or through an administrative agency through a private right of action.
So if there's an employee who's concerned about what's going on at work and they don't want to wait for a state agency to take action, they might be able to accelerate action if they get someone on their own.
Absolutely. Get a lawyer and go to the courts, seek equitable relief, which you can get rather instantaneously, or file a right of cause of action, and perhaps you bring others out from under the rocks that have also been affected by it.
And we currently have some private rights of action
We have
in Rhode
some.
Island?
We do have some, but most, if not all, somehow relate through administrative complaints through the Department of Labor and Training. This is going to open up the courts to private rights of action.
Okay. Have you had a hearing on that legislation?
Not yet. No.
Okay.
No, we're waiting to hear on that one.
All right.
Yep.
Well, you mentioned egregious acts of employers, and I know you've also put in some legislation related, to a degree to the restaurant industry and wages. Why don't you let our viewers know what that legislation does?
Absolutely. We got some considerable, lengthy testimony from a lot of employees, admittedly many of Latino descent, and they're working in restaurant businesses as deli workers, dishwashers, kitchen workers, that sort of thing. And one of the things that they talked about was, first, which really jumped out at me, was that they're working 70, 80, 90 hours a week and getting paid $200, which is in blatant violation of the minimum wage statute. And that's there. I think that there's an enforcement mechanism in there. But they're also now taking away pay for spoliation, for breakage, for things that are perhaps precipitated by the acts of the employee, but at the same time, certainly not deliberate on the part of the employee. So, for instance, if a deli worker gets the wrong sandwich and the company has to take that sandwich back, and it's a $7 sandwich, they're deducting $7 from their pay, and that's just wrong. And so, what my bill attempts to do is to prohibit, and the magic language, if I may,
Of course you may.
is the magic language is spoilage and breakage, cash shortages or losses, and tardiness, misconduct, or quitting, those kinds of things. But for instance, you get the employee, the cash drawer is short, and there's 5 people working, and they single out this particular employee for the cash shortage, and they say, okay, we're going to deduct your pay by the amount of that shortage. Well, that's just wrong. I mean, we're principled on a society of due process and a right to be heard, and it shouldn't be summarily treated that way.
And it would be wrong for anyone, but it's particularly wrong for people who don't make a whole lot of money in the first place.
Exactly, and those seem to be the most targeted people, and the people that have the least are the ones that seem to be the ones that are affected the most by that kind of behavior, and it's troubling.
I know the restaurant industry was in focus last year when groups of restaurant workers made an attempt that was successful in raising the tip to minimum wage, and I know they highlighted during all of that debate all sorts of pay practices, and your legislation is really targeting that pretty directly.
Yes, it is, absolutely.
So how would that all be enforced, if you passed the state law?
Through the Department of Labor and Training, absolutely. This would be a formal complaint to the Department of Labor and Training. It's a wage violation, like any other wage violation, like a minimum wage, not paying someone their minimum wage, not paying someone who leaves their vacation time or their accrued sick time, that sort of thing. It'll be handled the same way that those employee benefits are handled right now.
And under current law, is there no recourse at all? If someone's pay was docked because they broke 3 dishes on their shift?
There really isn't. It's unfortunate. It's silent. I mean, could a creative lawyer come up with a cause of action? I suppose so, but why not facilitate it? Make it easier to get people their day at the administrative agency.
Have you heard from some workers in response to the filing of this kind of legislation?
Oh, yeah. I've gotten several thank yous. As you know, we're readily accessible by email, but my cell phone is out there. Everyone knows my cell phone number. I get a lot of calls, a lot of people thanking me for what they do, that sort of thing. And it's not an anti-employer bill at all, because we're targeting those employers that are breaking the law, not the employers that are fulfilling their obligations under the law.
Have you heard from any restaurant owners or other owners who don't have a problem with this because they treat their folks the right way?
I didn't, but again, they know that they're doing the right thing, so I don't think we'd hear from them. But it's, to the extent that I represent a few restaurants myself, they watch everything that I do. They can't believe that there's that kind of activity out there, but unfortunately there is.
Yeah. So you sit on the Labor Committee in the Rhode Island Senate.
I do.
What other kinds of issues are you folks taking a look at this session?
We're looking at workers' comp. There's a series of workers' comp laws that are coming down. There's a workers' comp commission, as you know, that is going to oversee all of those bills to make sure that the courts, the litigants, the doctors, the medical providers are all in on the decision making to make it a little bit more comprehensive and shore up those bills. We're also looking at a lot of wage issues. As you know, we just had the minimum wage bill come before us. I foresee that bill will pass in accordance with the governor's wishes, with the national trend regarding minimum wage and getting folks up to, get them out of the poverty level where they are right now, that sort of thing. And I'm very proud because the senator was Senate President Piva Weed was gracious enough to assign me to both Judiciary and Labor, which I think are two of the sexiest committees up in the State House. And, we hear a lot of interesting things.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come into the studio and informing our viewers of a couple of different hot issues going on in the Rhode Island Senate. Thank you, Senator.
It's always my pleasure, Jim. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us for this edition of Labor Vision.
Hello, everybody! That's better, that's better. I think we can even get a little bit louder, but as we go on, we'll see how it goes. First off, we're going to start off with Brother Bill Dunn and Miss Kelly House are going to lead us in the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the
Well, anybody who knows me knows I'm obviously not going to top that, so you can kind of cross that off the list. Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. Well, I got to say, this is amazing. Absolutely amazing. It's unbelievable. On behalf of our local, I'd like to thank the incredible support that we have gotten statewide from so many other union groups and the public as well. From the AFL, to the Teamsters, to Local 99, to the Steelworkers. To National Grid, to the Cranston Fire Department, Local 1363, Mr. Paul Valletta. Our city and state workers at ASME Council 94, Representative Dave Bennett, SEIU Local 509, and numerous others. that last roundabout, I don't have to say to be loud, but keep it loud, please. I'm gonna be. I want you to cheer for these speakers that we have up here today, who are here to support us in our fight against corporate America. I want you to be raucous. I want you to be enthusiastic. And I want to be able to hear you. We got drums, we got noisemakers, and we got a lot of loud people. This should be a message to corporate America. This right here, what's in front of you, to your left, to your right, in front of you, behind you. This is a message. Should be a clear message. We aren't afraid of you. We will fight. We will scratch. We will claw. And most importantly, we will win. Most people here know what we are fighting for and what we're fighting about. Do we? Yeah! That's good. We are fighting these entitled corporate hogs who want everything for themselves. Lowell makes $50,000 a day. The top 5 executives make over $230 million in the last 5 years. $1.8 billion profit a month. $39 billion in profits over the last 3 years. And they want us to give back? Brothers and sisters, as I stand here today, who's ready to give back to Lowell? Who's ready to stop them? I ask you, who is ready to take on these pigs from Verizon and these corporations who want to ruin America? Who's ready to fight for the middle class? We all know it's not going to be easy, but you know what? Sometimes you just got to fight. We are going to lean on each other and help each other. Our fellow unions are showing incredible support. They got our backs. So I'll end my long-winded speech with this. That's just the inspiration we need. Now who's ready to fight? The first person I would like to bring up to the stage is a man who needs no introduction. I like your voice like that. Needs no introduction. He's our friend, he's our brother in the state of Rhode Island, Mr. George Nee.
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. Who's ready to fight? On behalf of the Rhode Island AFL-CIO, we are here to pledge our full support for as long as it takes, plus 1 day. And on behalf of the labor movement, I want to thank you. Now that may sound a little strange when you're on strike, but I want to thank you for your courage to stand up against corporate greed and not let them push you around and not taking any shit from them. You know, we've done this a lot of times. I think this is my 4th or 5th strike that I've been with my brothers and sisters here. One time the horses came in and pushed us up on the stairs. The last time we had a big rat out here. But you know what's happened every time? You win! You win every time because you got the guts and the courage to stand up to them. In 2011, the labor movement was really going through a hard time, and you went out on strike. And you turned things around, and you're going to turn things around this time. Because there's one thing that's going to happen here. You know why you're going to win? Because nobody's going to beat the CWA, and no one's going to beat the IWEW in Rhode Island. You know, as we stand here and you look around to your brothers and sisters, we're going to win because there's something in each one of us that those bastards are never going to have. And that's soul. And that's commitment to people. And that's an understanding of why we're standing here today. We're standing here today because people who came before you stood up. They got beaten up. They got killed. They went on strike. They sacrificed to make things better for you today. And you understand that. And you understand that obligation that you have in your heart, that you can't let them down. And you're standing here today because tomorrow your children and your grandchildren are going to work here and work for other companies. And things are going to be better because you stood up for them, because we're a family and they don't mess with us. So again, on behalf of a grateful labor movement, you're showing the way all around the country, not just in Rhode Island or in the region where the strike's going on. Workers are depending on you, and we're going to win together, and at the end of the day, we will win. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Labor Vision. We appreciate your input and encourage your comments. Labor Vision can be seen on this channel 3 times each week: Tuesday at 7 p.m., Thursday at 8 p.m., and Saturday at 5 p.m.